Good morning, everybody. Today we're joined in the studio with Professor Ann Smith from the University of Boston, Professor Matt Brown from Harvard University, and we will later on be joined by Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. Good morning, professors.
Good morning, John. Glad to be here.
So tell me, Professor Brown, can you explain what Zionism is and how was it created?
First of all, you need to know that Zionism is the basic idea of Jews being supported to form a national homeland by founding small organizations that would help in a small-scale immigrations of Jews from around the world to their homes, Palestine, which was not yet established at the time. Jews moved to Palestine because they think that they have the right in the Holy Land and they believe God gave it to them. The father of modern Zionism is considered to be Theodor Herzl. The Holocaust, where more than 6 million European Jews were killed during World War II, rapidly increased the rate of immigrations. Jews, at least the ones who survived, didn't have anywhere to go. They didn't want to go back to their homes.
Professor Smith, what made Jews interested in Palestine?
One of the early Jewish immigrants, Deborah Diane, explained the reasons she chose to immigrate to Palestine from Russia. In her memoirs, she wrote that the main reason she was immigrating is that she did not know anyone. She wrote, and I quote, "Where are the masses of my own people? I must begin again from the very beginning." Now Jews were starting to purchase land, and organizations were established for that purpose and for boosting the population of Jews in Palestine.
The population of Jews in Palestine rapidly increased after the Ottoman Empire was taken to pieces and after the agreement of Sykes-Picot. What exactly is it, Professor?
In May 1916, British Foreign Secretary exchanged letters with France's ambassador to Great Britain. These letters defined the Sykes-Picot Agreement. The agreement carved the Middle East up into spheres of influence for Britain and France. It's worth mentioning that all of this happened during World War I, and Britain and France were fighting the Ottoman Empire. After World War I, the League of Nations established the mandate system of British and French control. Under this new system, Syria and Lebanon went to the French. The British took over Palestine, 3 Ottoman provinces, Jordan, and created Iraq.
Thank you, Professor. We'll take a break and come back in a minute. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Professor, what was the Balfour Declaration and why did Britain issue it?
Strong Zionist movements were being created all over the world, and specifically in Britain. The recipient of the letter that Secretary Balfour sent was Walter Rothschild, a prominent British Jew. The declaration was a method to gain the support of the Zionists, who were otherwise neutral. Also, Britain had to protect the sea route to India, which went through the Suez Canal.
The British mandate for Palestine was the legal commission for the administration of Palestine. The draft was confirmed by the League of Nations in 1922. The mandate formalized British rule in southern part of Ottoman Syria and later on the UK, divided the mandate territory into 2 administrative areas: Palestine under the British rule and Transjordan under the rule of the Hashemite family.
We welcome now via Skype directly from heaven Hajj Amin al-Husseini, Grand Mufti of Jerusalem during the Mandate of Palestine. Glad you can join us, Hajj. Can you please tell us a bit about your position as Mufti?
As the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, I am in charge of Jerusalem's Islamic holy places, including Al-Aqsa Mosque, Dome of the Rock, and other places.
What was your reaction to Zionism and Jewish immigration back in the 1920s?
I had done my best trying to let the world be aware of us, Palestinians, and our cause. Until 1921, I had been looking for ways to block the mass Jewish immigration to Palestine. I controlled several secret organizations that played an important role against Britain and Zionists.
So, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the 1920 Arab riots?
I, at some time during the riots, accused Jews of endangering mosques, including Al-Aqsa, the third holiest site in Islam. The masses rose up against the city's Jews with all slogan, "Slaughter the Jews!"
My final question, I know you're busy in heaven. Why have you thought that Jews were not entitled to settle in Palestine?
I've answered this before, and I'll answer it again. Being a previous occupant of an apartment, for example, doesn't give you the right to just knock on the door and say, "This is my place. Get out."
We thank you very much for being with us here today, and we thank our partner Skype for making this conversation happen. We'll take a break and come back. We're back to the final part of our conversation about Palestine, ladies and gentlemen. The fourth part. Professor Matt, what happened to these organizations?
The organizations got larger, and most adults in Jewish settlements joined. All of that helped turn the Haganah into a properly qualified army. At the time, the leaders of the Haganah tried to limit the capabilities of the army. The instructions to the fighters had been only to defend, and that they weren't allowed to start any attacks themselves in 1931. Some of the other members of the Haganah were opposed to the orders of the leaders and split to make their own organizations, the Irgun.
Irgun's policy, in contrary to that of the Haganah, called for the use of force, if necessary, to establish a Jewish state on both sides of Jordan. Irgun committed acts of terrorism and assassination against the British and Arabs, whom it regarded as illegal occupiers. Irgun's violent activities led to the execution of many of its members by the British. In retaliation, Irgun executed British army hostages. It is also worth mentioning that the Israel Defense Forces were formed by an order of Defense Minister David Ben-Gurion, formed out of the Haganah, incorporating the Irgun. Ben-Gurion also served as Israel's first prime minister. The most powerful political figure in Israel, the position of President of Israel, is largely honorary.
It was certainly been an interesting discussion. We'd like to thank our professors, Professor Ann Smith from the University of Boston, and Professor Matt Brown from Harvard University. Thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you sometime soon. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, goodbye.